For nearly 4 decades, the actress who played Kelly Bundy kept one story almost entirely to herself. She dropped hints in interviews. She smiled when the subject came up. She even made jokes about it, the way she does about everything. But she never truly told the world how much one man changed her life. Now, at last, Christina Applegate has opened up about Ed O'Neill, and what she revealed changes everything we thought we knew about America's most dysfunctional TV family. For 11 seasons, the Bundys made the world laugh. But behind the laughter was a bond that no camera ever captured. A 15-year-old girl, a man in his early 40s, and a friendship that outlasted the show, outlasted the fame, and carried them both through the hardest moments of their lives. This is a story of what really happened between Christina Applegate and Ed O'Neill. And this is why, after all these years, she finally decided to tell it. Join us. When Married, with Children premiered on the Fox network in April 1987, it was unlike anything television had ever dared to air. It was a young network's first great gamble, a rude, raunchy, unapologetic comedy about a family that seemed to despise each other. Critics were horrified. Moral crusaders called it a threat to decency. And standing in the middle of all that chaos was a 15-year-old girl making her television debut. Christina Applegate had been cast as Kelly Bundy, the eldest daughter, a character written to be a teenage sex symbol. The scripts were packed with double entendres. The wardrobe was designed to turn heads. The attention from fans, from the press, from grown men on the street could easily have swallowed her whole. Instead, she had Ed O'Neill. Ed O'Neill was in his early 40s when the show began. He had not been handed anything in Hollywood before acting found him. He had been a substitute teacher at his old high school, and he had clawed his way up through theater and bit parts in the long, grinding years before success. He knew exactly what this industry did to young women. He had watched careers burn out, watched innocence get sold for a cheap laugh. And somewhere in those first weeks on that soundstage, he made a private decision that he has never once broken. Nobody would ever treat the 15-year-old girl playing his daughter the way Hollywood treated girls like her. Christina has only recently begun saying it out loud. Ed treated her like his own child from the very first day. He guarded the set. He steered conversations away from inappropriate places. He made sure the chaos of the show never reached her. He raised me, she now says without a moment of hesitation. If you do not like anything about me, it is his fault. If you do like anything about me, it is also his fault. Those 11 years were the years that shaped a whole human being. Christina walked onto that set at 15 and walked off it at 26. She went from a teenager to a woman inside that studio. And she credits the man who played her father for the woman she became. The cameras never caught the quiet moments, but the crew saw them all. Ed checking on her between takes. Ed positioning himself near her during difficult scenes. Ed cutting off conversations the moment they drifted toward anything inappropriate. It was not in his contract. It was not part of the job. It was Ed O'Neill making a choice to be a genuinely good man on a set where good men were in short supply. But this secret bond was only the beginning, because in 1989, Married, with Children nearly died, and the way it handled that crisis bound the cast together forever. It began with one woman in Michigan. In January 1989, Terry Ricalta, a wife and mother, happened to watch an episode of the show called Her Cups Runneth Over. What she saw offended her deeply, so she did something almost nobody had ever done before. She decided to destroy a hit television series with nothing but letters. She wrote to major advertisers, demanding they condemn the show. She went on news programs. She contacted newspapers and television stations. And it worked at first. One by one, some of the biggest sponsors in America pulled their commercials. The money that kept the show alive disappeared within weeks. Inside the Fox network, panic set in. Executive meetings ran late into the night. There were genuine conversations about canceling the series on the spot. The show that had launched the network was suddenly on the brink of extinction. For the young cast, that terror was absolute. Christina was 17 years old. Married, with Children was not just a job to her. It was her entire life, the only world she had known as a young adult. Watching it collapse because one woman complained felt like watching her future get erased in real time. But Ed O'Neill refused to let fear take over. What most people never knew is that during the worst weeks of the crisis, Ed gathered the younger cast members, Christina and David Faustino, who played her brother Bud, and gave them a speech they have never forgotten. He told them that no matter what happened to the show, they had already built something real, something special, something that no cancellation could ever take away. He told them to be proud. Then he did something even fewer people know about. He went to the press himself. Interview after interview, he defended the show, but more importantly, he defended the kids. He made it clear in every conversation about the controversy that the young actors on that set were not fair game. Attack the show if you must. He said in effect, leave the children alone. Then the universe delivered its cruelest punchline. The boycott exploded into national news. Millions of people who had never watched the show tuned in, purely to see what all the outrage was about. Ratings went up, then they went way up. The publicity intended to destroy Married with Children turned it into the biggest comedy on television. It remains one of the most spectacular backfires in the history of the medium. And Christina has revealed that what she remembers most from that terrifying chapter is not the ratings and not the victory. It is Ed O'Neill, steady as a rock, standing beside her while the ground shook. She watched him face a crisis with calm, with humor, with total composure. It was a masterclass in grace under fire, and she never forgot a second of it. The cast wore the boycott like a badge of honor after that. What had been designed to humiliate them had only united them. They had walked through fire together, and fire, as it turns out, forges families. But an even harder goodbye was waiting, and none of them were ready for it. When Married with Children ended in 1997, it did not end the way a show like that deserved. There was no grand finale. There was no tearful farewell episode. There was no on-screen goodbye for the Bundys, and no real closure for the actors who had played them for 11 seasons. The show was simply canceled. One day they were shooting scenes. The next day, the phones rang and it was over. For 11 years, Ed and Christina had worked side by side almost every single day. They had watched each other grow. They had built one of the most influential comedies in television history together. And then it ended without a ceremony, without a celebration, without a single moment to mark what they had created. Christina has spoken about that strange, sudden grief. One day you have an entire family around you. You have a routine. You have people who know you better than almost anyone on earth. Then the set comes down. Everyone scatters, and the family you grew up in vanishes into the wind. Hollywood simply moved on to the next thing. But Christina and Ed never really let go of each other. Even after the cameras stopped, the bond held. They stayed in touch. They met for meals. Ed watched her career from the front row, offering advice when she asked and support even when she did not. When Christina landed her own sitcom, Jessie, in 1998, Ed showed up unannounced during the taping of the third episode, a surprise that made her burst into tears on stage. That moment said more than any farewell episode ever could. The TV father and daughter had quietly become the real thing. Ed went on to find a second golden age with Modern Family, becoming one of the most beloved sitcom dads in television history. Christina built a remarkable career of her own. The Sweetest Thing anchorman, Samantha, who, and the acclaimed Netflix series Dead to Me. And through all of it, Ed was watching, proud in a way only a parent could be proud. But in 2021, life handed him a test that would redefine everything. On August 10, 2021, Christina Applegate posted a message on social media that stopped the world. Months earlier, while filming the final season of Dead to Me, she had been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Production had halted for 5 months while she absorbed the news and began treatment. Multiple sclerosis is a chronic disease of the central nervous system. It attacks mobility, balance, vision, and memory. There is no cure. The symptoms can be managed, but the disease never leaves you. For a woman who had spent her entire life in motion, dancing, performing, commanding every room she entered, the diagnosis meant rebuilding her life from the ground up. She now walks with a cane. She lives with cognitive fog that makes simple tasks exhausting. She has admitted that she will probably never act on camera again. And she has been brutally honest about the grief. Grief for the life she thought she would have, grief for the body that no longer obeys her, grief for the future she had planned. And then there was Ed. When word reached him, the man who protected her at 15 stepped forward once more. The entire married, with children and family rallied around her. Katie Sagal has championed her publicly at every turn. David Faustino and Amanda Burse have sent their love. But it was Ed's response that moved Christina most deeply. He treated her illness the way he had treated everything else, as something to face together, with humor and without a trace of self-pity. After nearly 4 decades, she said, he was still looking out for her. He was still her protector. And that steadiness meant more to her than any medicine. The diagnosis also raised a painful question for fans. Would there ever be a Bundy reunion now? Long days on a soundstage, heavy physical demands. None of it felt possible anymore. But Ed O'Neill and the rest of the cast made one thing absolutely clear. They would not do a reunion without Christina. They would not replace her. They would build anything around her needs. The Bundy family was not complete without Kelly. Period. In November 2022, Christina Applegate received her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. For any performer, that day is a mountain. For Christina, simply showing up was an act of courage. She arrived with her cane, moving slowly, refusing to hide, refusing to let the disease win. Katie Sagal stood beside her, her TV mother, her real-life friend. The speech she gave left everyone in tears. "This day means more to me than you can possibly imagine," she told the crowd. Then she said something that captured her whole philosophy of life. "I do not say that I have friends. I have family." Then came the moment that broke hearts across the world. At the Emmy Awards in January 2024, Christina walked onto the stage with her cane to present an award, and the entire room rose to its feet. Every single person in that auditorium stood and applauded. The ovation rolled on, wave after wave, for what felt like an eternity. Christina stood there, overwhelmed, and then she did what she has always done. She made them laugh through their tears. Looking out at the sea of standing stars, she quipped, "You are totally shaming me with disability by standing up." It was pure Kelly Bundy and pure Christina Applegate. Heartbreak and humor in the same breath, always. And after the cameras stopped, away from the lights, the old family showed up again. Ed O'Neill was among those who made sure she felt loved that night. Decades had passed, but the dynamic had not changed by a single degree. He was still looking out for her. The TV father was still a real one. Those public moments proved something the whole world needed to see. Christina Applegate was not disappearing. She was facing her fight out loud, using her platform to educate people about MS, and doing it all with the wit that made America fall in love with her when she was 17. Now that Christina has finally started talking, the stories are pouring out, and they paint a picture of that set that audiences never saw. Married, with Children gave its cast unusual freedom on camera. Scenes were sometimes left deliberately loose, so the actors could play, and Ed O'Neill was the finest improviser in the room. He had learned his craft in theater, and he used those skills not to show off, but to teach. He would throw curveballs at Christina in the middle of the scene, changing his delivery, forcing her to react in the moment, to think on her feet, to find the joke live. It was not a trick. It was coaching. He was investing in her future as an actress, the way a father invests in an uncertain child. The running gags that defined the show, Al Bundy forever reliving his 4 touchdowns for Polk High, Peggy's absolute refusal to cook a single meal, Kelly's dizzy one-liners that grew more creative every season, grew organically out of that real chemistry. They were not all on the page from the start. Many of them emerged from actors who genuinely loved working together. And beneath the dirty jokes was a set run on decency. Christina has said that even when the show was at its most provocative, Ed made sure the recording studio remained a respectful and safe place. He shut down inappropriate remarks instantly. He set a standard from the top that trickled down to everyone. The characters might behave terribly, but the people playing them were treated with dignity. Some bonds simply cannot be explained by luck or casting. When Christina was asked, in one rare and emotional interview, to sum up what Ed O'Neill meant to her, she gave an answer that instantly became the headline. "He raised me. So if you do not like anything about me, it is his fault. And if you do like anything about me, it is also his fault. After nearly 4 decades, that is not a co-star talking about a co-star. That is a daughter talking about her father. For years, fans begged for a proper Bundy reunion. And for years, it seemed impossible. Then Christina's diagnosis seemed to close the door for good. But in March 2024, Christina launched a podcast called Messy with her friend Jamie Lynn Sigler, who also lives with MS. It gave her a platform where she could speak on her own terms, sitting down, no long hours, no memorized scripts. MS brought us together. She said of her partnership with Sigler, and the podcast changed everything, including conversation about a reunion. It proved there were formats that could work around Christina's health. Then, in January 2026, nearly 39 years after the show began, it finally happened. The Bundy family walked out onto a stage together at the Wilton Theater in Los Angeles. Christina Applegate, Ed O'Neill, Katie Segal, and David Faustino, all of them one unforgettable night. The crowd chanted Bundy. The tears and laughter flowed. And Christina, facing her illness with her trademark blunt humor, refused to let the disease have the last word. Ed O'Neill has said for years that he would never revisit the Bundys without his TV daughter. They were a package deal, all of them or none of them. And there, on that stage, the world finally saw it. Kelly and Al together again, exactly where they belonged. What Christina's revelations have proven, after all this time, is that married with children was never really about the crude jokes. Beneath the chaos was a family that showed up for each other when it mattered, and the bond at its center, between a girl who needed protecting and a man who chose to protect her, turned out to be the most real thing on that entire set. Ed O'Neill was not just playing Al Bundy. He was being the father figure Kelly Bundy never had, and Christina Applegate never let him go. For decades later, it is the greatest love story to ever come out of a sitcom, one that did not need a script because it was never an act. What do you think about the incredible bond between Christina Applegate and Ed O'Neill? Did the Bundy family reunion bring back your favorite memories? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you love untold stories from television history, do not forget to like and subscribe.